Hi everyone, I'm Kimbyrleigha, and this is Kimbyrleigha Live, where I break down current and ongoing true crime cases in an easy to understand format. And pretty much, I thought about it today. I'm a commentary channel, I guess, as well. Didn't really think of it that way, but here we are. I also have a main channel here on YouTube where I talk about true crime cases in a narrative format. And I also have one with my husband called Dark Livity. And we also do storytelling in solved cases, narrative format. If that's something that you think you might like, check them out in the description box. But today we are on day 27. Day 27. Are we on day 27 of the Karen Reed retrial? And I feel like the days are coming to an end. The trial is coming to an end. It's going to be a sad day for all of us, but I'm sure we'll move on to something else. But right now, we're concentrating on, well, everything that's been going down. But we are definitely on the Karen Reed retrial, day number 27. You can look below if you're new here. You probably already left if you're new here and you just caught me totally not in my set. But things happen. When we left off, the defense was going to bring in their last witness. And now we have another one from the defense, and that was the plow driver. He is from Canton. His name is Brian, but they call him Lucky Loughran. And I'm going to refer to him as Lucky Loughran or just Lucky. I have to say right off the bat, he's pretty likable. I don't know about you, but I just feel like, in my perspective, he seems sincere. He seems reliable, but that's just me. But apparently, some of the jurors last trial really didn't get that much out of him, didn't really have an opinion about whether he really helped or hindered anything. But I think that's because the testimony was not in depth, and this time it was. Plus, we have visuals this time, which I was so happy about because we know what a plow looks like now. This plow, plus the view from it. So, first, Lucky discussed his background and all of his connections in Canton. I'm just going to recap that for you so that we can get into the good stuff. But he is a lifelong Canton resident. He graduated from Canton High School in 1990. He worked for Chris Albert at the D&E Pizza Place for about 8 years. And Chris Albert is one of the Alberts, obviously. And he is Brian Albert's brother, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Believe he is. There's a lot of Alberts to keep up with. But he also knows the entire Albert family, but especially Chris. And that, yeah, that is his brother. That is his brother. And it was at Brian Albert's house that John O'Keefe was found dead in the front lawn. Chris and Brian Albert were also present at the waterfall, at that bar and grill where John and Karen were the night of his death. And Lucky's own brother, Michael, is a member of the Canton Select Board. You might have heard that before because guess what? So is Chris Albert. So they have that connection in common. And that's another connection he has to the Albert family. But instead of testifying for the prosecution, he's here for the defense, which is not usual since everyone else connected to the Albert family or the Alberts usually testify for the Commonwealth in this case. And that is why I think he makes an excellent witness, among other reasons, of course. But Lucky also knew Kevin Albert, Brian Albert through the pizza deliveries because his job involved delivering to the police, and he often delivered 234 Fairview Road, the Albert residence, which he said they've been living there for a very long time, ever since he's known them, they've lived there. Now, what else can I say? He's familiar with the home, the location, but what makes him so important is he drives a plow through this area. So he knows the roads very well. He also knows the cars that are usually at certain residences. I mean, I think even we do in our own neighborhood. Like when we see a car that's not supposed to be there, we'll be like, who is that? But he has been there so many times. He knows their routines and those who live there, what cars they drive, where they park them, and they typically park them in the driveway. But let's go ahead and listen to him explain his shift on January 29th of 2022. Also want to just point out something before I jump in. I always forget something. We have 50 members of the Law Baddies. Like, when did that happen? It happened overnight because I was like, what? Okay, so thank you so, so very much. And I want to just remind you, you never ever have to pay for anything, do anything. A lot of people are very generous in the chat and they've been gifting memberships. So make sure you turn that on, that you will accept gifting memberships. And also, here's what I found out because I did talk to my partner manager this week about a lot of other things that are going on. My main channel definitely has a video coming out on Monday, by the way. I don't want you to think like I'm abandoning my channel or anything. It's just Dark Livity put a video out yesterday, so we need a little breathing room between the two channels. But if you gift memberships and there aren't that many people in the chat, don't worry, because when they come on the next day, whoever comes first gets the gifted ones. That's what I heard. So just keep that in mind because we usually have about 240 people a night, but they come and go. So not everyone's here at the moment that you're going to gift, but they will get it next time they're here. Does that make sense? So let's jump in. And I do have some things at the end I will talk about with our membership because I have some exciting things that I wanted to just talk about for anyone who cares about that part. I'll leave it till the end. All right, here we go. Let's jump in. And if anything is ever wrong with the audio, if you're having a hard time hearing something, just let me know because I don't always notice and there is a little bit of a delay. So just let me know if there's anything that happens with the audio that you would prefer I change.
All right, now directing your attention to January 28th and 29th of 2022, were you on duty as a snowplow driver that night and early morning?
Yes.
When did you learn that you would be on duty?
Early January 28th, we were notified that we had a 2:30 start time.
And that would be 2:30 a.m.?
A.M.
On January 29th?
Yes.
How did you learn that you would be on duty?
Our supervisors for the DPW would notify us.
Who was your supervisor?
William Walsh.
And what instructions were you given in terms of when you were to report?
We were to report at 2:30 in the morning and prepare our trucks for plowing.
What time did you actually get to the DPW that morning?
I got there about 2:15.
And when you say you got there, where did you go?
160 Bolivar Street.
And is that Bolivar?
Yes.
What is 160 Bolivar Street?
It is the DPW garage.
So that's all we really needed to know was the time. Lucky began his plowing shift at 2:30 a.m. and drove truck 30, which is nicknamed Frankentruck. And that is due to it's just all put together, the condition it's in. And he confirmed it had no mechanical issues that night. And we're finally going to see some photos of the plow. Courtney, we're seeing photos of the plow. We have always gone back and forth about a theory we had that possibly John O'Keefe was hit by a plow. Just a theory. It runs through our brains. We don't know better. We're just the 13th juror. But we finally get to see what the plow looks like. However, I wish they would have taken some photos from the outside, but we're going to get to see Lucky's point of view.
Hey, Madam Court Reporter.
Ms. Gianetti, why don't you take the photos so you'll know what they are?
Great idea. Okay, could you explain what 211A depicts for this jury?
That is the front of truck 30, Frankentruck, and it's depicting the two mirrors on the right and left side of the fenders.
Okay. What about...
So we can see, though, that there are lights on this truck. I mean, clearly, it is a truck, but obviously it would have nice bright lights so that it could see where it was going, especially in the dark when it's plowing.
The next one, please, Mr. Wolf. Can you identify, this is 211B,
Nice big windshield.
sir.
Yes, that's the inside of the Frankentruck looking out the windshield.
As if you were seated in the driver's seat?
Correct.
Next photo, please. This is 211C. What does this depict?
This is depicting on the range that I would see seated in the front seat, looking out the windshield, and depicting how much I'll be able to see.
Okay, and this would be more toward the left side in front of you as you're seated in the driver's seat?
Correct.
All right, next photo, please. This is 211D. Could you explain this to the jury?
Again, I'm sitting in the front seat of the Frankentruck, and I'm taking a picture out the right side of the windshield, again, depicting on how much I can see out it.
Thank you.
So we didn't get to see this before. This is like his range that he can see through both sides. I mean, it's basically just like a truck, but he is going to have to show where he can visualize things, right? Where his perception is.
Okay, we can take those down and put the lights on. Okay, so you previously testified that you got to the garage about 2:15 a.m. on January 29th. Could you explain to the jury, what do you do when you get there at 2:15 a.m.?
So at 2:15, we do a simple circle check to make sure that there are no defects with the truck. We go ahead and we make sure it has plenty of diesel, and then I put any supplies that I may have for the night, planning on an overnight shift, and then I get in the truck and I proceed to my route.
And what type of supplies are you talking about, sir?
Any types of drinks, food, anything, snacks.
Preparing for a long night?
Snacks.
Yes.
The circle check, does that mean what it sounds like, where you sort of take a circle around the vehicle?
Yes, we're trying to make sure that the truck is safe, that there is no defects that would hinder the job ahead of it of being able to plow.
And when you did the circle check in those early morning hours, was there anything unusual that you found?
None.
Were you comfortable driving the snowplow that night?
Yes.
And you mentioned that you make sure it's filled with diesel fuel so you're good for the night.
Correct.
Now, what lighting is there on the truck facing outward?
I have 4 lights. I have the initial headlights, and then I have 2 plow lights that are on either side of the fenders.
That's what we saw. I was wondering what those little square lights were. So those are additional lights on the side.
And
And then I have marking lights, and then I have work lights in the back for the sander.
okay. If you recall the one photo that showed the truck from the outside, were the 2 plow lights visible in that photo?
Yes, they were.
Were the headlights visible in that photo?
Yes, they were.
Could we display that one more time, Your Honor, to have him point that out? Is there a pointer there, sir?
We're going to see it again.
No, there is not.
Okay. Could you describe on 211A where those plow lights are?
Plow lights are just above the grill on the right side and left side.
Okay. And would it be fair to say the plow lights appear to be a clear lens and then an orange lens on either side?
Yes.
And the headlights, sir, where are those located?
They are to the right and left of the grill, and they're underneath.
Okay. And those are located just to the right of the grill in terms of as we're looking at 211A?
Yes.
Okay. We can take that down and put the lights back on? Now, do you recall whether or not... Oh, strike that. You also mentioned marking lights. Where are those?
Marking lights are on the top of my truck, along with the beacon light on top of the truck.
And what is a beacon light?
Beacon light is exactly what it looks like. It's a light that just illuminates and it goes around in circles.
And the marking lights, what do they do?
They're similar to driving without your headlights. They're just there to mark the truck so that it's more visible for residents who may be driving and not paying attention.
And where does the lighting face those marking lights?
Front.
Okay, so in terms of the light that strictly goes toward the front, you have marking lights, plow lights, and headlights, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall whether, when you did your circle check, you checked out whether those lights were all working?
Correct.
And were they working?
Yes.
When all of those lights are on, how bright is it in front of your truck?
Extremely bright, almost as if I had a spotlight.
And that's facing straight out.
Correct.
What about facing diagonally out front?
Again, as far as the lights will illuminate.
And then on either side, directly out to the side, how far can you see?
About 5-6 feet.
Okay. So you see more when you're looking straight out and then diagonally out, correct?
Correct.
You can see farther?
Correct.
Now, how about in terms of you being situated in the vehicle? How high up is the driver's seat?
Driver's seat is an air ride seat, so it can adjust accordingly.
What is an air ride seat?
It is adjusted by air, and it can go up or down depending on the driver's.
And how long did it take you to do the circle check, to put your snacks in the car and water, and to make sure the car or the truck is filled with diesel fuel?
About 5 minutes.
All right, so if you get there at 2:15, is it fair to say that you're ready to go on the road somewhere around 2:20 or 2:25 a.m.?
Correct.
And when you did start to go out on the road at around that time, how was the seat adjusted?
I adjusted the seat up so that my knees would hit the bottom of the steering wheel.
How big is that steering wheel on the truck?
It's fairly large. It's larger than a regular passenger vehicle. It's very large.
As of January 29th of 2022, were there any obstructions on any part of the windshield that would prevent you from having a clear view in any direction through the windshield?
No.
Once you got into that truck in those early morning hours, how far could you see in front of your truck?
As far as my eyes would let me see.
So there you have it. He showed the photos of the truck. He said it was powerful lighting, headlights, plow lights, beacon lights, marking lights. He said the front of the truck was extremely bright, strong visibility, both straight, diagonally, even to the sides. And he has driven this route before. Okay, so we're going to listen to what happened on the night that all of this went down. We're going to hear about his route that night. But I thought that was a good overview. Also, look what I have tonight. I remembered my solo cup. And since we did get new members, I'm going to have new emojis, including I'll allow it. I'm making it. Okay, I'm making new emojis. I got a lot of ideas. If you have any of your own ideas, let me know later in the comments, because if you leave them here, I might not see them. But I can see them now. All right, so here we go. And this is water. Somebody said water for the night shift, energy drink. But this is water. It's sparkling water. Okay, let's listen to this next part.
Let me see.
And how far could you see diagonally?
I already went over
Diagonal
this. It's
probably,
coming up.
again, as far as my eyes would let me see.
All right. Now,
Nope. Hang on. I'm going to go further a little bit. Sorry. I want to go right here.
and when you hit Fairview Road that first time, what do you do?
I go all the way to the very end of Cedar Crest, turn
way?
around in the cul-de-sac, and then head back up
Very.
towards Fairview.
Okay, so you're passing Fairview on your left,
Yes.
plowing further, and then turning around and plowing back.
Yes.
And when you came back to the intersection of Cedar Crest and Fairview, what did you do?
I take a right.
And how familiar were you with 34 Fairview Road on that day,
Very, very familiar.
having delivered pizzas there for years?
And then having grown up in that neighborhood.
Were you friendly with the Alberts growing up?
Mostly with Chris, but, I was cordial with the boys.
All right. And when you entered Fairview Road from Cedar Crest for the first time on your route, would 34 Fairview be on your right or your left?
On my right.
So you're getting a visual, right? It's going to be on his right. Means he's going to see the driveway first, then the front door, the yard, then the flagpole. So that's kind of giving you an idea of where everything is.
And can you give the jury your best estimate of when or what time was it when you first encountered 34 Fairview Road on January 29th of 2022?
About 2:40, 2:45
That would be AM?
a.m.
And when you were passing 34 Fairview Road or encountering it at that point, what did you know about who lived there?
I knew the Alberts lived there, and I knew that Brian Albert was a police officer, first responders.
Now, aside from the lighting on your truck, were you aware of whether there were any street lights in the area of 34 Fairview?
Yes.
Could you describe those?
Sure, there's one before you get to 34 Fairview driveway, and there's one after Fairview's driveway.
Do you have a memory as to whether or not those street lights were working on
If the word is Fairview tonight, I don't think people are going to survive this night.
January 29th of 2022?
I do not have a memory of that.
All right. But in any case, how much of the lighting of your Franken truck was illuminated at that time?
All my lights were working.
So you're now driving up Fairview Road, and 34 Fairview's on your right. Taking into account the lighting conditions that existed, especially on your truck, how much of the front lawn of 34 Fairview could you see?
I could see all the way to the front door.
What obstructions were there at the time when you first passed the Alberts residence?
None.
Were you familiar with the area of the flagpole on the left side of the property?
Yes.
Now, when you are plowing, sir, where is your attention focused?
My attention's focused out the front window, to the right and to the left.
Why?
I am looking for pedestrians. I'm looking for residents that may be backing out, not aware that I'm there, and God forbid, animals.
Aw, I loved when he said at the end, he's like, God forbid animals.
How much of the time that you're plowing are you scanning the road?
All the time.
Now, as you're passing 34 Fairview, could you see the area of the flagpole at 2:45 in the morning, sir?
Yes.
What was on the ground on the Alberts lawn at that point in the area of the flagpole?
Nothing.
Nothing. Catherine, thank you for commenting. Being from a state and area that gets a lot of snow, the snow plow trucks, I added snow again, the plow trucks are blinding. Lots of flashing lights and wide distance multiple headlights. This witness would have seen a body in the yard. He just confirmed his route included 34 Fairview. When he reached it, it was about 2:40 to 2:45. This was his first pass. He saw the entire front lawn, flagpole area, nothing. There was no obstruction, so he saw nothing in the yard by the flagpole. There were no cars parked on the street. I think it's safe to say that all the guests at Brian Albert's house had already left. We know that some of them left according to their own testimony that night, and we saw video evidence of Brian Higgins at the Canton PD around, was it 1:30 in the morning? So he had to have left sometime before that. Did he come back? I don't know. But not one person that left that night that was feet away from the flagpole saw a body on the lawn. And Lucky, high above with his air rising seat with his bright lights, whose job it is to look and make sure he doesn't hit an animal or a person, didn't see anything. Because this is just my perspective. I sometimes inject my own thoughts. Maybe you feel the same. If you don't, let me know. It's okay. We can agree to disagree. This is this man's job. He seems like the type of person who takes his job really seriously, like takes pride in his job. I would believe that if he saw something in the yard, he would have done something, especially if he saw a person. But let's just say he saw something and he was like, what is that? To me, I don't think he would have just kept going because I feel like he has a duty. And you'll hear why I think that in a few minutes. But it just doesn't seem like he would just let it go if he saw something there. And the Commonwealth is trying to prove that John was hit at 12:32 a.m. ish, right? And had been lying out there in the snow this entire time, close to the road, only feet away. But what about the second time that Lucky passed by? Because that was his first pass.
5-10 minutes.
And when you're coming back down, what side of the road is 34 Fairview?
On my left.
When you pass 34 Fairview at that time, are there any obstructions preventing you from seeing the front lawn?
None.
Was there any difference in the lighting on your truck when you were coming back down?
No.
Where is your attention focused when you're passing 34 Fairview on your left?
Again, out the front, right and left.
And how much of that front lawn are you able to see on 34 Fairview when you're coming back down from Chapman?
I can see everything. I can see right up to the front door.
What did you see on the front lawn of 34 Fairview on January 29th of 2022 when you're making the second pass by 34 Fairview in the area of the flagpole?
I saw nothing.
So, of course, I like the devil's advocate, and Courtney is definitely going to put me there. She said, it's not impossible that he didn't see the body. It did have some snow on it by that point, allegedly, if it was there. If you're not looking for something, it's easy to miss. This dude makes no difference to me either way. So if she was on the jury, which we're all pretending we are, so we have to give each other some, lenience in how we think and feel. Because remember, you will be with 11 other people, then, they're not going to think the same way. So that's what I want to cultivate here. We're not all going to think the same way. You can't just, attack one of the other jurors. Now you can challenge them. And I would say, if I was going to challenge that train of thought, but there were people coming and going from the house around the time that it would have been there, and it wouldn't have had a lot of snow. I think he said there was only about 2 inches. I don't live in a place like this, but in my mind, the way that I would imagine is like, let's say that a person was lying in the snow. Not that he was a huge person, but he was over 6 feet. Was he six foot tall and 216 pounds? And he was wearing a darker colored and then also gray, but he had jeans on. I would assume the snow would kind of accumulate into a hump, so to speak, so that you would kind of see something peculiar. I don't know if you would know it was a body, but I think you would think something was there. I don't know. Maybe not. But you have to remember, if this is the truth, he was also bleeding. And I don't know if you've ever seen the contrast between blood and snow. I've definitely seen that. You would notice that. In my opinion, you would notice something because you know what's weird? Animals and people both. They recognize death. It's the weirdest thing, but you can, hear people talk about seeing a dead body for the first time, or your brain like automatically feels something and knows something's wrong. So even if you don't know what you're looking at, it's just a feeling you get. It's like instinctual. So I feel like if he saw this blood in the snow, but maybe you're right. Maybe it's continuously snowing and it's covering the blood and we're not seeing it. But I don't know. But he did pass the second time. Now it's on his left. So now this is around 2:50, 2:55, 5 or 10 minutes from the first time he went there. Now he's on the opposite side. So this time he would be seeing it. Well, if he looked out of his window, it would be on his driver's side, right? He said the view wasn't obstructed. The lighting was the same. And again, he saw no body on the lawn. He saw nothing. And you could see right up to the front door. And now there's going to be a third pass. And this is when he sees something, but it's not a body.
So now it's about what time that you're coming for the second time to this area?
3:30.
And
when he says second time to this area, he already made one full pass. This is the third time he's coming, but the second time he's coming to the street, right? Because he already went up and down. So it's really the third pass.
when you come back to the area of Fairview Road the second time, are you on the Cedar Crest side, which is on the top of Exhibit 49, or the Chapman side, which is on the bottom?
Oh, that's YouTube. This is the only part it does that. It just freezes for a second. I'm gonna just fast forward a little bit.
I
There
did
it is.
not take the left. At that point, I could have taken the left. I can make a decision depending on how much snow there was on the ground. I ended up going all the way to the end as if the first time.
All right, and you did your same turnaround in the cul-de-sac?
Correct.
And now you're approaching the intersection of Cedar Crest and Fairview again, correct?
Yes.
What do?
I take the right onto Fairview.
How was the weather at 3:30 in the morning when you're now in that area of Fairview and Cedar Crest?
It's snowing fairly hard now.
Do you recall how much snow was on the ground at that point?
Maybe 2-3 inches.
So 2 or 3.
And at about 3:30 in the morning,
Courtney said, "What if you look the other direction at the same time? Would you have seen the body?" From what I know, and I don't know much, I'm just comparing it to California where we have street cleaning. The trucks are not going like we would down a street. They're going slow. That's why it takes so long. It takes them like 3 hours to plow like an entire stretch. So they're going slow. So there's no way he wouldn't have looked back in that direction in the 10 minutes or whatever it takes him to do it. I don't know. I think he would have seen it, but I mean, I guess anything's possible, right?
how far could you see in front of you, again, straight and diagonally in front of you,
As far as my eyes would let me see.
as a result of the lighting on your truck?
Correct.
Now, you take the right onto Fairview. Describe to the jury what you see in the road at that point.
As I make my right onto Fairview, I notice that there's a vehicle on the right-hand side, roughly in the area of the flagpole, in front of 34 Fairview.
Okay. And did you make note of what type of vehicle that was?
Yes,
What type of vehicle was that?
a Ford Edge.
What direction was that vehicle parked when you saw it?
It was parked nose going up Fairview.
Toward Chapman.
Yes,
So you're coming up from behind it?
correct.
Do you see the rear of that vehicle?
Yes,
And was it parked adjacent to the Albert property, or was it across the street from the Albert property?
adjacent to the Albert family.
And how close to the area of the flagpole was that Ford Edge parked at 3:30 in the morning?
I can't give you an exact measurement, but looking at the front door, it was about 3 feet to the left of the front door in the area of the flagpole, so in between the front door and the flagpole.
Now, what caused you to remember that there was a Ford Edge parked at 3:30 outside the Albert's residence that night?
Good question.
For as long as I can remember, they have never parked a vehicle in front of their house. They've always had enough ample parking in the driveway.
What policies or protocols of the DPW are enforced when vehicles are parked on the street or the road during a snow emergency?
There is no parking allowed. We are supposed to notify our supervisor when there is a vehicle in the way. At that point, the supervisor will make attempt to call the resident or have the police show up at the resident. And then if they can't get the car removed, the car gets towed.
Sir, did you follow protocol that night?
I did not.
Why not?
Knowing the Albert family, knowing that there was a first responder, I gave them respect and opted not to follow procedures.
How did the presence of that Ford Edge parked on the side of the road affect your direction of travel?
I had to go around the vehicle.
How did you maneuver around it?
I had to maneuver to the left, go up, and then maneuver back right into my lane, and then continue up Fairview.
So I thought this was interesting. It's 3:30. This is his third pass. He sees a Ford Edge parked in front of 34 Fairview near the flagpole, which he says has never happened in his experience, meaning we already know people were parked behind them in the driveway and now they're gone and they have ample room in their driveway. So yes, if they have extra guests, we know they park on the street. But this wasn't a usual vehicle and it wasn't in its usual spot. And then the reason he didn't report it, which he was supposed to do, is because he knew Brian Albert was a cop and he was going to give him some lenience. Because guess what? It would be like calling himself, not really, but you know how it's like, who are you going to call? The authorities? I am the authorities. Joking. But he let him slide. He knew the family, let him slide. He figured, yeah, it'll probably move, but you're not supposed to be parking there in a snow emergency. The plows are coming in. Everybody should know that. And what does the department do anyway? They would call the homeowner, tell them to move their car. I don't know what you're going to think of that. The reason this is the same area where John O'Keefe's body would later be found. And still, when he maneuvered around this ford edge, he still didn't see anything lying on the ground. The reason why this is so important, I'm going to take my headphones out for this one. I don't want to hear myself in my ear. There have been assumptions and implications regarding this vehicle because it's known that it is so-called favorite among the Albert family, including Chris Albert, who earlier had been at the waterfall with everyone. It's been said that he was there. This is an assumption. This is a theory to pick up the Chloe dog, Chloe, the dog that the Alberts owned up until this point when they rehomed their dog for unknown reasons. But others had said on Reddit, and I've read it, and I've also told Courtney this, and this is just something to think about. It has also been said that that car was there to obstruct the view in front of the backyard gate. The basement has a door that goes to the backyard, and then a gate that comes to the front, and it's in line with the flagpole. So it has been said that this car was parked that way to act like a shield to move John's body to the lawn from the backyard. Is it possible? You tell me. Plausible? Sure. It could have been. I mean, the dog has never been seen after this, not even when Jen McCabe came in later that morning after 6 a.m., not when the officers came later. The dog was rehomed. Why? And then there was a fourth pass by Lucky. So let's listen to that while you let all of that simmer, because I'm sure some of you are going to be like, you are bat shit. Okay? And that's fine. This is just things that I've read in my research and things that I think about. Okay? So let's keep going.
So now you've passed 34 Fairview again. Where do you go?
I go back to the top of Chapman, and again, I do a left and a right and head back down Fairview.
Another 3-point turn.
Correct.
So now you're doing your second up and down, correct?
Correct.
All right, so you then enter Fairview again, coming back down from Chapman. And how long does it take you to get back down to the area of 34 Fairview?
Again, about 5-10 minutes.
Now, you are now approaching 34 Fairview, and it's on your right or your left this time.
Again, it's on my left.
What, if anything, did
I believe it's been rumored that it's Chris Albert's vehicle, but apparently Colin, don't quote me on this. It's like one other person has one. I mean, it's known to be a vehicle they like, and they've gotten multiple.
you see in the road at that point?
Again, I saw the Ford Edge in the road.
Now it's on your left side?
Yes.
Did it appear to be
Someone in the comments said Colin Albert, Brian Albert, plus more. So, like I said, Colin Albert, I think the other brother, and more.
in the identical position as when you came up the street toward Chapman?
Yes.
I'm sorry, did we miss
How
that?
much of the area of the flagpole were you able to see this time as you're coming back down from Chapman?
I was able, it was obstructed, so I wasn't able to see as much as the first time, but I was still able to see the flagpole.
What did you see on the ground in the area of the flagpole at now 3:35, 3:40 in the morning?
I saw nothing.
Okay. So now that I heard that, it was around 3:35 to 3:40. Lucky came back down. He saw the same Ford Edge in the same place. The lawn was partially obstructed this time, but he could still see the flagpole. There was nobody there, according to him. My question, what would a visitor be doing at that house that late or that early in the morning? Could John have been in the backyard this whole time in the snow, but out there? And this person came to help with something? I don't know. Another thing I've read. But if it was a family member, if it was another Albert driving the Ford Edge, would Chloe be nice to them? He was a dog, or she was a dog, known to have behavioral issues and has attacked other dogs and a person as well. She's been said that she's not good with strangers. There's going to be a fifth pass. And this time, he was gone a lot longer because he did more of his route, and then he came back around 6:15 a.m. Like I said, it takes him a while to run these routes and plow the snow.
Road.
About 3 hours.
So what is your best estimate of this third time that you're now approaching Fairview Road?
About 6:15
And that'd be AM
a.m.
on January 29th?
Yes.
Now, this time when you approached Fairview Road, did you come from the Cedar Crest side or the Chapman side?
I came from Chapman Street side.
And when you turned, did you turn left or right from Chapman Street to get down to Fairview?
I turned right.
And once you turned right, did something unusual happen?
Yes, I noticed there were blue lights behind me, forcing me to pull over to the side of the road.
Did you recognize the vehicles that had, or vehicle? I didn't ask you if there was more than one, but did you recognize what type of vehicle or vehicles there were?
Yes, they were police vehicles.
Which vehicle was traveling more quickly, the police vehicle or Franken truck?
The police vehicles.
What were you doing with your snowplow after the police passed you?
I continued down Fairview.
Coming down Fairview, did you actually lose sight of the police cruiser that had passed
I did.
you? How many side streets are there when you're coming down Fairview from Chapman Street?
We don't need to know about the side streets. I think what's important to note here, there were police blocking the road now. We know why. Around 6:15, he returns, sees police cruisers. They've got their flashing lights on. They're blocking Fairview. He turned around. He continued on his route on the surrounding roads. But despite being a key witness, plowing this area during this critical window, what I thought was important and stood out was that no one from Canton or the state police contacted this man. It was 2 weeks later when a private defense investigator found out that he existed. I think that's important. And they thought it was important. And they wanted to speak with him, so they did. And it was at the Canton ice rink where he also works. And later, Lucky drove his entire plow route with the defense investigator, showing them everything he saw and he did on that morning. It wasn't until 2023, so the following year, that he was contacted by law enforcement, but it wasn't Proctor's team. It was the FBI with their own investigation. And then that's when they reached out to him. I don't know. You tell me if you think that that's relevant, important, not sure. Just reading some of the comments here. Let's see. Lacey said they would have to pick him up so not to have drag marks, but there would have been footprints. Maybe. I don't know. That's a good point that somebody else made on another channel I was watching, that they would never have done that because they would leave a trail and then everyone would know. So it's a good point.
Sir, 2023. Were you approached by law enforcement officers who were not Canton Police or Massachusetts State Police?
Yes.
Without telling us what you told them, did you speak to them?
Yes.
Before speaking to them in 2023, had you ever heard from former Trooper Michael Proctor or anybody from this investigation from the State Police or Canton Police?
No.
Why not?
At some point, did you hear from the State Police?
Yes.
That was after you'd already talked to the defense and to these other law enforcement officers who were not State Police or Canton Police?
Yes.
How do we know there weren't footprints? Because you know how many footprints I saw in the snow after the fact? I mean, I don't know how many hours later, 3 hours, would there be any footprints 3 hours later? I don't live in the snow. Someone tell me. Let me know. But do I think it's weird that he spoke to other law enforcement officers in 2023, but only after the defense outreach, he was then contacted by the state police? They want to speak to him? If you knew, because you would be living there, you would know that plows come around, right? Wouldn't you want to speak to him immediately? Like that night? You would think that he would be first on their list. So Lucky actually ends his testimony by saying that he has a very strong memory of what he saw and what he didn't see on all of those passes that he made before the police arrived. I believed him. If I was on the jury, I feel like I believe his testimony, but it's his job. And I think that's why. I think the way he goes about it, he's serious about his job. But we're going to hear from Brennan. And I think you're going to notice that he's a little insensitive and almost rude at one point to this witness. And then there's the tactic of trying to constantly make it look like the defense is coaxing, coaching, pressing people to lie. But guess what? It's a good argument, right? That's how they're choosing to prove that maybe some of this testimony is not reliable. But the way that Brennan went about it this time, he could have left some of this stuff out. I think it wasn't good for their case, but you tell me. He opens by questioning Lucky about his memory. Hasn't your story changed over time? He says, no, it hasn't. He confirmed that first he spoke to the defense's private investigator. Yes, it was shortly after the incident, and that story has never changed. But remember the part I said he should leave out? Well, that was about social media. Social media influence. And for this man, I don't know. But let's listen and you tell me.
You spoke to a private investigator on behalf of the defense shortly after that night.
Yes.
Was that the first time that you spoke to somebody about what you had seen or not seen?
Yes.
That is the first time?
Yes.
Inevitably, over time, you have given statements to at least 4 different people, correct?
Correct.
And you've testified in court under oath?
Correct.
During the pendency from that night until today, it's fair to say there are many times where you have been intimidated, isn't it?
No.
You've been threatened.
Nope.
You were aware, sir, that you were being threatened by an online blogger to expose you?
I was not.
You're saying as you sit here today, you have no awareness in the history of this case that you were being threatened by an online blogger.
I was not threatened by an online blogger.
Was the online blogger threatening or saying that he would expose you and tell personal things about you if you weren't helpful?
He was not threatening.
Let's remove the word threatening. Was the person communicating and making clear to you that if you didn't testify in a certain way, there would be some consequence to you? Any time from when you first spoke to the private investigator until today, were there communications made to you by an online blogger that there would be consequence for you if you didn't testify in a way that was acceptable to them?
No.
You listened, of course, didn't you, to podcasts that were about you?
I did not.
People told you about them.
Yes, they did.
When friends told you about them, you knew who that person was that was making those claims, correct?
Correct.
You were well aware of the person had a very strong and large social media presence.
I didn't know how large or what his presence were, but yes, I knew he had a blog.
Well, you know now because you follow that blogger now, don't you?
I do follow him, yes.
Do you pay for a subscription?
I do not.
Did you get one for free?
I did not.
And in following that blogger, you know full well the power that person has to get attention from the community to harass, correct?
Yes.
And so during the pendency of this case, not only were you aware that you were being pressured to testify a certain way, you also knew there'd be consequences. Isn't that true?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
The premise of that question is not accurate.
So he can answer that.
You knew there was pressure for you to testify a certain way in this case, didn't you?
I did not know I was being required to testify a certain way. I was also at the time dealing with the loss of my wife.
Wow. This man lost his wife during this time. Can you imagine? I doubt social media was even a care in this man's mind. And then how does Brennan respond to this? I was waiting. I mean, it was only one tiny second for me to wait.
I was not paying any attention to any social media.
Sorry for your loss, but you are aware during the pendency of this case that there has been pressure on you to testify in a certain way. Isn't that fair to say?
Sir, Mr. Brennan, do you have 1 ounce of compassion in your entire body? I'm sorry for your loss, but right back to the questions. At least take a beat. Just let it sink in for 1 moment. Or at least act like you care, but that was pretty harsh. And I doubt it went over well with the jury. He just comes off as like, you're not important to me if you're not saying what I want. I don't care. That's how it comes off. I'm not saying that's what he's actually doing, but it's just how it came off. And I'm sure you have figured this out, but they're referring to Turtle Boy, Aiden Kearney. Is that how you say his name? I have not seen anything but 1 video of him, which was not harassment, even though people were saying it was. He's still in the court. He's in the court right now in the media. So whatever those things were that were going on doesn't look like they went anywhere yet. If they are going to, he's allowed in the courtroom. He was there this day. He's allowed there. But the video that I saw of him supposedly harassing Jen McCabe, he wasn't. He wasn't. I've seen harassment before. He's annoying. I will give him that. He's also done investigations that I think the police should have done. Like he went door to door to get ring footage, door to door asking people on the road, did the cops come here and ask for you for ring footage? No. I mean, you have to give some credit to someone that's trying to do an investigation of their own, right? Whether you like him or not. I don't know his history with this man, but I'm acting like a juror for the purposes of this testimony back and forth, and I don't know anything he's done. But from what I can understand, he has a powerful following in the community. That's what Brennan said, and he's going to press him more.
No,
Sir, you received a call from that blogger, didn't you?
I did.
And during that call, did you know the person was recording you?
I did not.
You later learned that the person recorded you.
I did not.
Do you know that your conversations were spread throughout the community online?
I was.
Sir, some of those communications or inquiries were claims that you would be exposed for personal matters if you didn't testify a certain way, weren't they?
No.
Inevitably, you've met this person, haven't you?
I've seen him. I haven't met him.
Have you ever spent time with him?
No, I have not.
You're still a follower of that blog.
I am.
When you follow the blog, do you read anything or do you watch it?
No, I don't do much anything towards the blogger.
As you follow it, you can see there are oftentimes articles about you.
No.
Haven't you ever been encouraged to do the right thing?
No.
Okay, that's interesting. They do the right thing because Officer, what was her name? Dever? Yeah, Dever. When she was asked, oh, do the right thing, what does that mean? And it seemed like, oh, that's not weaponized. But now do the right thing is like, weren't you told to do the right thing? Okay, but it's Turtle Boy, you know, he's got this blog. It's a paid one with a subscription. I've seen it before. I've never read anything on there other than I went there on a link from Facebook and all those other places because I will agree, it's been posted and posted and posted, right? People are very influential that are following this case, and doing videos and blogs and vlogs and all that stuff. And he is on Karen's side. I don't know if he's specifically on Karen's side or if he has kind of a bad taste in his mouth about like the cops and the investigation specifically. I don't know. But he actually, Lucky, admits to following Turtle Boy's blog, but he denies being threatened or pressured by him. I do feel like he comes off honest, but I don't know. I mean, how would you feel? He's posed for photos. He says out of politeness, not because he enjoyed the attention. But I mean, that's awkward. Like, can I get a picture with you? No. I mean, that wouldn't go over well. You'd make someone feel bad. You don't want to ruffle anyone's feathers. I totally get it. But I don't think him or Dr. Russell were clout chasers. Just my perspective. But his friends were telling him that he was on podcasts and online. But he says that didn't create pressure to say something. He didn't want the attention. He wants to live peacefully, which I believe is true. I don't know. If you're in that area, maybe you would subscribe to Turtle Boy's newsletter because you'd want to keep tabs on what's going on. But I actually think this isn't the best way to go about this. I think that a lot of younger people, as we've heard, are in the jury. So maybe they're now curious. Like, who's this blogger? Like, who's this social media person? It kind of creates a mystery. Like, I want to know. I want to know who he's talking about. Why is this person so big? Why do they have such a following? I mean, he's like building him up. Why does he like Karen? Is there something we should know? So I think it might have been sort of a double-edged sword. I see where he was going with it. I don't think it had the power that he thought it would have.
Fair enough. By the way, the blogger that I speak of, do you know if he is friendly or supports one side over the other?
I know he is friendly towards one side, yes.
Okay. The side sitting in the back of the room?
I would say to the fencing.
You've interacted with a private investigator hired by the defense?
Yes.
Have you also interacted with any of the attorneys?
Yes.
Which attorneys have you interacted with?
Mr. Yannetti.
Have you contacted or been have you spoken to any other attorneys other than Mr. Yannetti?
Just Mr. Yannetti.
How many times have you spoken to Mr. Yannetti?
Again, what are we talking? First trial, this trial?
The entire time, from that night until today. Can you remember how many times that you've
About
spoken?
5 times.
How many times have you gone in to be interviewed by him?
4 times?
During those interviews, were they spaced out over the course of this case?
Yes.
What was the purpose of those interviews?
To go over my testimony.
When you went
It's an interesting point. I think Brennan is getting some points here. First, he has him admit that the blogger clearly supports the defense. But like I was saying, wouldn't you want to know why if you were a juror? I don't know. I just find it to be kind of not the right strategy, but whatever. I think it's probably not going to do much to it. But then he's talking about how many interviews have you had with the defense? Were you talking to them? I don't think giving that much weight is important, but who knows? The jury could be like, yeah, why did you have 5 interviews with the defense? Like, were they coaching you? Because remember, that's kind of where Brennan is going now, if you haven't noticed. Oh, the officer was pressured. She was going to be in perjury if, charge her with perjury if she didn't say what you wanted. How many times did you meet with the defense? Oh, you were in the car, you were in the limo, Dr. Russell, with the defense. So I think that's important, and he's kind of earning some points, possibly. But I also think that some of these jurors could have possibly known about Turtle Boy and things like that. But remember, when they're being interviewed, they can say, yes, I have heard those things, but I can be impartial. I can. And if they feel like they're being honest, they're going to get in anyway, right? Tell me what you think. I think I would be intrigued. I'd want to know. I know he doesn't have the best personality, the Turtle Boy guy. I know that. But I do like passion. I do like people who will go and investigate things on their own and kind of like uncover things and has the guts to do that, because I couldn't. Not at all. But Brendan's going to start suggesting that Lucky possibly didn't see the Ford Edge. Or if he did, it was from a different road. Maybe you couldn't see what kind of car it was because he was far away. He's going to say that. And he's like, no, I was on 34 Fairview. So let's go there.
over testimony,
No.
when you spoke to law enforcement, not the Canton police or the state police, you understood it was important to be as accurate as possible?
This is when he spoke to the FBI. This is going to be afterward because there's going to be some time discrepancies. Brendan's going to say that the FBI stated Lucky was on his shift at midnight.
Yes.
And you understood, at least with that law enforcement agency, if you misled them in any way, it could be up to a 10-year penalty?
Yes.
When you spoke to them, did you take that interview very seriously?
Yes.
Try to be as precise and accurate as you could?
Yes.
And when you spoke to them, obviously, like anybody, you had in mind there could be serious consequences if they felt misled.
Yes.
You try to be honest with them,
Yes.
provide them your best memory and good faith.
Yes.
And this was shortly before, well, actually, this was May 24th, 2023, correct?
Correct.
When you met, there was more than one person there from this agency?
I believe so.
Was there potentially 2?
There was 2.
And when you met with them, they asked you about when you began working that night.
Yes.
You told them 11:30 to midnight.
I never told him that.
And so as you sit here today, your memory is you did not tell those law enforcement agents that you began work at 11:30 to 12?
We had a 2:30 start time.
I understand, but I'm asking you,
I never told him. It was always 2:30 start time.
when you spoke to them, do you remember telling them the first time you were out near the area was midnight?
Nope. No.
So he's confronting him, discrepancies in your account to the FBI. He denies it. He's like, no, we had a, 2 a.m. start time. But something I found was interesting is like, if he was out there at midnight, he would have still been out there at 3, 4 the whole time. So wouldn't it be even more damning if he was out there at midnight and didn't see anything? Because at 12:32, supposedly wouldn't he have seen Karen backing into John O'Keefe and then no snow would be on the ground? So I was like, why is he bringing up this just to get out, oh, that there's a discrepancy? But like, did you think about the time frame you're now saying it's going? And the fact that he's trying to point out, oh, you might have, not known that you were lying, or not that you wouldn't know, but don't you know how important it is? You can get 10 years in prison or something. Well, Jen McCabe lied, right? Remember, she said she needed to go to the bathroom, I think it was, and instead she made 10 phone calls. And then her husband was like, "You better make that right." So she let them know. And then Officer Dever, she apparently had a misunderstanding. One so specific, it seemed like either she had to have seen it or someone told her that they saw it in that Sally Port. But then she recanted to the FBI. So there's a supposed time difference. But if you start at midnight and he was out there 3-4 hours and he still didn't see anything, right? I don't know. And then he testified in 2024, I think it was, that his last pass was at 5:30. And here on the stand, he's saying it's 6:15. So Brendan talks to him about that, and he's like, well, I probably made a mistake, and he'll explain why later. But let's look at this, because apparently there's some footage of him. Yes, there's some footage from one of the cruiser dash cams that I thought was interesting. You really have to look at this, by the way. So let's go back. You really have to look at this. There it is. First of all, here are the conditions. 6:17 in the morning, so you can get a feel for like how the snow was coming down, how bright it was out there. Now, obviously, there's a few cruisers here, so it's gonna be a little bit brighter.
Stop it there. Do you see that street light?
I do.
Okay. At the end of that road, past the street light is Cedar Crest, correct?
Correct.
Is that a fair depiction of the elements that night around that time?
Yes.
And in this case, there's further illumination with the car that's facing us?
Correct.
That wasn't there, was it?
Correct.
You said after you saw law enforcement, did you come down Fairview after you saw law enforcement?
I was on Fairview already when I saw the law enforcement.
Did you drive by Cedar Crest again to go back and forth and watch what was going on, or did you go on your route?
I went on my route, which included Cedar Crest.
So I don't know if you caught this part. You know, sometimes people don't look at the screen while they're working, and I sometimes have that problem. It's not a problem, but it's a preference. I wish I could blow this up for you, but I locked my screen already, so I won't mess anything up. But where I want you to look is straight ahead in the distance where you kind of see those lights at the bottom of the screen near the snow, because there's going to be a vehicle pass by. Brendan is going to ask Lucky if that is his plow truck.
Did you keep driving by because you wanted to watch?
Also, this whole thing about like, did you drive by because you want to watch? Who doesn't want to know what's going on in their small town in front of Brian Albert's house where you just drove by not too long ago? I would stick around. And then I was thinking, why does it matter if he stuck around? Somebody tell me, because I don't know what that was proving. I was missing the point on that. Was it connected to he wants clout? He wanted to insert himself into the investigation? Because we know he plowed regardless, right? That was his job. I mean, I'm nosy. I want to know what's going on in my town. I'm not going to not drive by if I see something like that. So that's kind of what he's trying to figure out, it seems.
Or did you just leave and do your regular route?
I went and did my regular route.
Could I have 6:19:27, please? And could you play it?
Okay, we're going to play it. Look in that direction.
If you could back up a little before 6:19:27.
I think they played it at the wrong point.
Is that weather consistent with what it looked like to you?
Okay, you can see in the left side where the bottom of that other pole with the light, you can see a vehicle coming in.
Yes.
See that? And it's got little lights on the top.
Is that you there?
So he's going to ask him. See him in the middle right now? There's his little truck. Well, he doesn't know yet.
I don't know.
He's going to say he doesn't know. But at this moment, he's going to realize it is, and there's going to be a reason.
Oh, if that's me. Yes, that's me. That is me.
So we have the time. What's the time up here? 6:19. The man said it was 3 hours from the time that he first arrived, somewhere in that time frame. So I didn't really think this was that big of a discrepancy.
Could we go to 6:30, 2:45, please?
Here comes another truck the other way. You can see the lights off in the distance.
Is that you again?
That one, I can't tell if that was me again.
So this is about 15 minutes later, right? So he's asking him, is that you coming by again?
Could we go to 6:35, 14, please?
A couple minutes later.
Was that you?
That was not.
I don't see it.
Yeah, I didn't see anything.
I don't see
saw a
the
car.
truck. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Could we go back to 6:35, 12?
No, that
That
doesn't
looks
have
like
lights.
to be a pickup truck. That does not look like my truck.
Yeah.
6:37, 45, please?
Okay, coming from that left side again. Slowing down, you can see the lights.
And that's you again, right?
Again, I can't tell you for sure if that was me.
Those were not your red and orange lights consistent with the earlier ones that went by?
What I saw the first time was the reflecting tape off the body of my truck.
Could we go to
I have
7?
a plow guy that is a contractor that we work tandem together.
This was so interesting to me because I don't know, Brennan, I don't know what he's trying to do right now, but I blew this picture up for you because this is what he saw. I mean, it's just so blurry, but see this red thing I circled? That is a strip on his truck that's reflective. And he knew his truck in particular had that. So when he initially said, oh, that's me, it's because he saw that flash of light. That's how he knew, because there's another plow driver out there.
And was he out there that night as well, going by Fairview?
Correct.
Okay. Did you ever tell the private investigator about him?
Yes, I did.
So I think Brennan got a little tripped up here. He's like, wasn't that you? It's like, no, I had a contractor out there with me. Did you tell the private investigator? Yes, I did.
7 o'clock, 22 seconds, please.
Okay, I didn't even see where he wanted us to look. That's how bad this view was for me personally. I think they want you to look between the cop car and the tree on the right. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm assuming. Like, I can't even see that. Oh, I see it. I see the red lights.
Is that you, sir?
I can't say for sure.
Right.
7:15, 45 seconds, please.
That one's too hard to figure out. Here it comes again.
Do you recognize that plow?
I did not see the strip on it.
I do not.
7:19 and 55 seconds, please.
It seems like both of them are going by. So the contractor guy's going by. He's already identified himself, what, 2 times? Or at least once? Again, I just don't know why we're taking our time to figure this out.
Was that you, sir?
That was me.
Oops, sorry.
How
Let me go
long
back.
does your route take?
Okay, right here, he is going to say it's him.
Was that you, sir?
That was me.
How long does your route take?
It's hard to say. I mean, as long as it's snowing, it can take as long as it takes.
Well, if you're going to do a pass, how long does an entire pass take?
If I were to do from Cedar Crest to the end, it would take probably 10 minutes. If I were to do the entire route, I'm not cleaning up. I'm just giving it a pass so people can get through. It could take about 3 hours. It could take 4 hours.
When you mentioned Brian Albert,
We don't need to know this part, but he was seeing the reflector. He knew that he was there at least twice on that video, right? That it's his truck. Saw the little flash. That's how he knew he could differentiate himself from the other person that was out there. But I don't understand what the back and forth is about all this. Like, okay, he was there. He admitted he was there. We know he was there. So doesn't this just give him more credibility? Or am I not seeing it correctly? I don't know. I just felt like this didn't really, there wasn't any oomph. Like I wasn't like, oh, you caught him. It was supposed to be 2.5 hours and end up either. He's plowing. He doesn't know how long he's going to be out there. It depends. And if he was nosy, I don't know. Does that change anything? But there is going to be another point he's going to make. I think I just accidentally missed it. But what he asked him is he said, why do you keep referring to Brian Albert as a first responder? Did somebody tell you to say that? He's like, no, those are my words. He's a cop. He's a first responder. I don't know. You tell me. It's been said so many times. He's insinuating that the defense coached him to say first responder. I know people that call them first responders. I do a lot of true crime cases and they do that. So let's go now to Yannetti. He's going to come. And I think this is the part where he's talking about the basketball hoop. Or no, this is the, hang on, let me go back. Yeah, let me go back.
Oh, actually, not final. I have 2 more points, but they're both brief. You had mentioned that night you actually misjudged and hit a net.
Yes.
Can you describe the basketball apparatus that, and I'm going to ask you what part of it you hit, but describe what that looks like.
It's got a base with wheels on it. It's portable, so you can move it in and out. And it's got the basketball frame, and it's got the backboard and then rim.
Okay. So this is not a pole that was cemented into the ground.
Correct.
So perhaps we're all familiar with it, the black base that maybe you put sandbags on,
Correct.
that type of thing to keep it in place, but it does have wheels?
Correct.
All right. And you mentioned the net. The net is the rope netting that comes down, correct? There's also a hoop that keeps the net in place?
Yes.
And the pole?
Correct.
And the base?
Correct.
Of all those things, what part did your Franken truck actually catch?
It caught the net in the little bit part of the frame, of the frame where the net was.
Something that you saw from the beginning, you just misjudged the distance.
Correct.
This to me could go either way. I was kind of like, kind of reminded me of like my cousin Vinny, where he's like, seems you need a new pair of glasses, huh? And then she's like, I can't see through them. So we know he wears glasses. Sometimes he wears contact lenses. He's wearing contact lenses today. He needs them to see like I need them to see. I put the wrong ones in today. Put the right one in the left and the left one in the right. So I can't see anything in front of me. All day I've been like that. No wonder I have a headache. But yeah, why did you hit this net? Well, okay. I thought about it because I want to play both sides and understand either way. It could look on one hand, you can't even see something. You're going to run into a net, somebody's basketball net. How careless are you? But then I was thinking, well, the net's white, right? I would assume. And it's snowing. It's white. It's not like he hit the thing head on. It's like something kind of caught on it. He couldn't really judge where it was. It was a net. He didn't cause any like major damage or anything. I don't know. You tell me. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. But maybe it's carelessness. I think Brennan's going to come on one more time and talk about...
under vehicles. That was based on your memory, wasn't it?
Yes.
It was based on your memory.
Not at 3:30.
Right. Do you know that there was a car similar to a Ford Edge in front of 34 Fairview around 6 a.m. that morning?
I wasn't able to get in front of Fairview Drive, 34 Fairview, at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Have you ever met Kerry Roberts before?
I have not.
Counsel just asked you if there was a lot of media about this case, and you said that there was.
I,
Did he just ask you a question about whether there was a lot of attention on this case?
Objection.
Did he just talk to you about everything that happened after this case, all the attention on this case?
Objection.
You remember his question about all the attention after this case?
he asked specifically a question.
So the thing he's trying to say is that he could have seen Carrie Roberts' car. I think she had a Ford Explorer, not a Ford Edge, but he wasn't on that road at that time. So I don't know. He's saying like maybe you didn't see that. There's been so much attention, and I still think he's trying to say that he's inserting himself in this case. But then this is something I didn't understand, but now I get it. Brennan keeps bringing up this red dumpster. Let me see if I can refresh this one to the red dumpster. Here it is. He's going to bring up this red dumpster that was across, I want to say, the street from 34 Fairview, because I think that is 34 Fairview, what we're going to see on the left. And there's apparently this red dumpster that's been there. It's been brought up before, because I think in the past he's asked Lucky, did you see a red dumpster anywhere out there? It's kind of like, have you ever seen those mind games where it says concentrate on the basketball and a gorilla walks through the scene? And it was like, how many people were passing the basketball? And you're like, 5. And you're like, when did the gorilla come by? And you're like, what? And you missed the gorilla. Well, here we go.
And sir, do you notice the big red dumpster to the right side across from Fairview?
There it is.
Yes.
Okay, you can take that down. Sir, when we started the break, I'd asked you some questions. I showed you a document, asked you if you were aware what was inside that document, and you mentioned that was around June 5th, 2023. That was before your last testimony in this case?
Yes.
And you knew that a person or persons were putting out private pictures of you online?
So the red dumpster thing is important. I think I see the point. Brendan's trying to say if you didn't even, they didn't go into it here, but he's just again showing them the red dumpster because this is a line of questioning that it was already going on. I get it. If you didn't see a red dumpster that didn't belong there was something awkward because a body doesn't belong in the snow. So if you didn't see that big red dumpster that night, how did you see a body? Because a dumpster is bigger than a body. I thought that was a good argument. I did. You tell me. Maybe it wasn't as significant, but I do think it could have been putting things in the jury's mind. Like, yeah, why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you see that? Why didn't you remember the big dumpster? But the second witness and the last witness of the day was this woman right here. Now, am I going to butcher this last name? Karina Kalakithis. I'm going to call her Karina. Thank you. Karina introduced herself. She said she's a long-time Canton resident. So I feel like that relates to the community, right? She's been a pharmacist for 30 years and married, 2 daughters. Her daughters also play sports in Canton. And that's how she met many of the parents, including Jennifer and Matt McCabe, through the youth sports about 10 years prior. She also knew John O'Keefe because his niece was close friends with her daughter. She also met Karen Reed through John in 2020. And Karina says that they were friendly. They've had friendly interactions, mostly just chatting about the games when Karen had been supporting John's niece. But she always liked Karen. They got along. So now let's jump to the day of January 28th, 2022. So that was the day going into the night that John died.
All right. Now, directing your attention to January 28th of 2022, do you recall that being a Friday?
Correct.
What did you do that day
So that day I worked.
as a pharmacist?
Correct.
Do you recall what your hours were?
Approximately, I would say 8 to 4 or 4:30 that day.
What plans did you have after work?
So after work, my plans were to go to the Canton High basketball game to watch my daughter play.
And what plans came up for before the game that night?
So before the game, before I left work, there was a text that went around saying that some of the parents were going to meet at the Canton Junction before the game, and if anybody wanted to stop by and grab a bite to eat.
And what is the Canton Junction?
So it used to be like a little pub/restaurant
Sue, I don't think so. Please don't start things in my chat. You will get kicked and banned. No need.
in Canton.
Did you go to the Canton Junction?
So I went home first because I had a bag I had to switch out of because we have to have plastic clear bags at work. So anyway, so I went home, and then after that, I stopped at the Canton Junction.
Okay. And did you go alone or with someone?
So I went by myself.
And when you got there, did you see people that you knew?
Correct. So I
It's the defense's case, so you're probably going to see less of Brennan, especially at the end of this, because he totally blew it. That's his fault. That was his strategy. Didn't even ask this woman any questions. Why? This is a very important part, and he just decides to crap the bed. He just decides to walk out. He's tired. He wants to go home. Doesn't even ask her any questions. So if you're not seeing much of him, that's probably because of his own strategy. Trust me, I've played equal clips. I always do. I'm not playing either side. I'm going to tell it the way I see it.
I walked in, and there was a bunch of parents there from the varsity teams, the varsity team.
And, excuse me, was either John O'Keefe or Karen Reed there?
They were not there.
What about Jennifer McCabe and or Matthew McCabe, her husband?
I believe Matthew McCabe was there. I don't believe Jennifer went to the Canton Junction.
Now, how long were you at the Canton Junction for?
I would say less than an hour.
Do you recall about what time it was that you would have been leaving there?
I'm not really sure the game's.
We don't know the truth, Sue. That's what we're doing. We're having conversations. Bye. I can't stand people who are like too aggressive about it. We're going to disagree on things. We can have conversations.
Started at 6:30, so before 6:30.
And when you
I'm not going to have somebody come in here and be like, you won't tell the truth. That's what this trial is about. The defense hasn't even rested their case. How can you tell me what the truth is?
left the Canton Junction, where did you go?
I went to Canton High School to watch the game.
And in the gymnasium, with whom did you sit to watch your daughter's basketball game?
I'm not sure who I sat with, but it would have been those parents from the varsity team, whoever was there and wherever there was a spot.
Was it generally a custom that the parents of all the kids on the team would kind of congregate together in the stand?
The thing is, the first day I ever streamed, somebody was like, you didn't even show Brennan's it was like recross. I was so tired that night. It was my very first time practicing. I don't know where this person came from. They probably didn't know that I had never done this before. And they were really rude to me. And they were leaving comment after comment on the replay. And I was like, what are you saying? Like, I'm just one person. I'm just trying to analyze things that I find important. I'm not going to find the same things important as somebody else. But I painstakingly pick out an equal number. Like if you haven't noticed, like I try to go back and forth. I try to get clips that I think are interesting from one, clips that I think are interesting from another. I said that today, I haven't watched it all. Brennan made some really good points. We haven't gone there yet, but I don't think he made really good ones. I think he could have done better. So I'm going to say that. I'm not going to just be like blowing smoke and being like, Brennan, you did great. I really think he dropped the ball on this. And I was going to mention, look, he's the expert. I'm not doing his job. But I felt like there were so many things he could have attacked, if you will, about this testimony, but he didn't. Ex-Patty.
Correct.
Do you recall what
Patty
time
man.
the basketball game ended?
I believe the game ended around 8:30.
Where did you go after the basketball game?
So after the game ended, I went down and waited on the court for my daughter to come out of the locker room, greeted her, the players, and then I said to everybody, I'm going home.
Okay. And you did go home?
Correct. I went home after the game.
Another thing I was going to say is I've been in chats where it's too Karen. I don't like it either. I don't like it. I don't like the vibe. I don't like people yelling and making fun of people and making, just rude remarks. And there are chats like that. And that's why I can't watch certain lives. I really want it to be a safe space where we can both and all just have a conversation. We can say like, you know what? I don't really believe that. And that is fine because I want to be challenged.
And having now made it home, What were your plans that night?
So my plans were to stay home. I was tired. I worked all day, watched the game. I was pretty much done with the day. So my plans were to stay home.
At some point, did those plans wind up changing?
So then I started getting text messages from my husband saying, you should come out. We're going to go to the waterfall. And I said, no, I'm not coming.
And what is the waterfall?
So that's a restaurant that has a bar, and it's on in Canton on Washington Street.
Okay, so you've given your husband the stiff arm, so to
Correct.
speak, right? You're
Correct.
not going.
Not going.
So what happens?
So then he keeps on texting me. He's like, I'm at the waterfall. You should really come. It's fun. There's a band. And I was like, really? Like, I don't want to go. And then my kids got involved with the conversation.
And how did that affect your decision?
So they started saying to me, Mom, you never go out. You never do anything. You know, Dad's by himself. Just go. Keep him company while he eats. So I reluctantly went.
All right, so you were guilted into it.
Guilted 100% into it.
All right, so where did you go?
So then I went to the waterfall.
I agree, Courtney. I was going to make that point too. This is another witness that I could do without. People go from lovey-dovey to irate in seconds or minutes. Their behavior before doesn't change my mind. I think that the bigger reason they wanted this in was the actions of Brian Higgins, which I do have to tell you, I do think are significant. You can hate me for saying that, but Courtney, she was being rude, okay? It wasn't just about agreeing or not agreeing. It's just the way that people say it is what I care about. I don't care if they are on one side or the other, but if they're going to be like telling me I'm not doing my job, that's when they got to go. But to recap this part, and I agree, this witness, I don't care about her basketball games or where she went or if she did, but she worked from 8 to 4:30. She attended her daughter's basketball game. She stopped at the Canton Junction, a pub, with other parents. Her husband was texting her to come to the waterfall, and she declines. Her daughters convince her. She never goes out, and she finally agrees. And that I could relate to. I'm a homebody. So she arrives around 9:30. Her husband's already there along with Matt McCabe and Jen McCabe, and she's introduced to the Albert family by Jen. And she mentioned Jen had a lot of family there. And then she states she drank only water the entire evening. I think that's relevant. I think, yeah, fine. She's a witness you could do without. I get that part because she's likable and she's like appealing to the jury and she's being cute and funny. And I think that's important for a witness, right? To be likable. But I agree, like the part about, we're going to get there. We're going to get there. But I know what part you're talking about. And I agree with you. I don't think it's relevant, but let's get to it. I'm getting feisty tonight. We're going to have like a baddie word for like feisty, kind of how Grizzly has like snarky. Yeah, I'm getting snarky. It's worse than that though. Hold on, let's play this.
And I was about to get going, and then John and Karen walked in.
Okay. And when you say John and Karen, you're referring to?
John O'Keefe and Karen Reed.
And why did that change your plans?
I was excited to see them. I liked Karen, so as soon as I saw her walk in, I was like, hey, I'm going to stay. I want to talk to her.
And what did you notice about...
She's like the only person that likes Karen. I'm joking, but I haven't heard anyone, and maybe they just haven't known her. But this isn't where Karen's from. So I'm having to look at both sides. I'm like, okay, this is the first person that's kind of been like, I really liked Karen. I wanted to stick around. But on the other hand, she's coming into John's world. These are his people. Yeah.
John O'Keefe's mood when he arrived that night?
So John was very happy. His niece had just gotten into a private school called Bishop Fian, and that was like the first thing he was talking about. He was elated that she got in, and he was telling everybody about that.
And thereafter, how much interaction did you have with John and or Karen?
Karen and I probably spent the entire night talking. Maybe give or take some time that we didn't, but the majority of the time Karen and I were speaking together.
And if you had to estimate, how long a conversation did you have with Karen?
Maybe an hour, like 40, 50 minutes out of the hour. Like if we spent like an hour together, perhaps we spoke 50 minutes of those out of that hour.
And without telling us the content of the conversation, what was the subject matter, if you remember?
So Karen was also, she mentioned being excited about Kaylee getting into Bishop Fian. And Well, when I first saw her, she first started talking about my daughter. So I saw her, she came in, she greeted me, and when we did start talking, she just started talking about my daughter and how much she really loved my daughter's relationship with John's niece.
Okay. And
So she stayed when Karen and John came in. She said John was elated that his niece had just been accepted into a private school. He was in a great mood, and that she spoke to Karen for about roughly 40 to 50 minutes. The time that she was there, the hour that she was there. And I think I forgot about this, but I think this is important because she was the sober witness. Somebody else mentioned that. So, Courtney, I think that matters, right? She was sober. She's a pharmacist. So, take it as you will. I think being a professional, she's not a cop. She's not a layperson. Not that that matters. I'm just saying, not judging it, just observing it. She's a professional. She's in the medical adjacent field, and she's giving her perspective later about how Karen appeared. So I think that's important, right? And then there's some things that Brendan brings up, the only thing he brings up, and I think it goes to that, and I think it's important. But the intoxication, her mindset, I think that is something to note in what she says. And you know what I thought of? I hope I'm not going too far because I want this witness to have her time to say this. But she was engaged in the conversation. She could tell that, in her opinion, she was drinking something that looked like alcohol. It was like a clear liquid. But here's the thing, I could have 2 drinks, I'm done. Others have a higher tolerance, regardless of their height and weight. Some people have a higher tolerance for alcohol, they can have more drinks. But in her opinion, as a pharmacist, she didn't show signs of impairment. And I think that's telling. And then she saw Karen and John being affectionate, which is what Courtney was bringing up. They weren't fighting, they weren't arguing, but I've done enough domestic cases to know that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter.
while you were having this conversation with Karen, was it an easy conversation back and forth?
Very easy.
Where were you located within the waterfall while you were having this conversation?
We were at a I don't remember where we were. We were talking. We were sitting down talking at a table.
And how close did you get to her when you were speaking with her?
In order in order for someone to hear you, because of the band being so loud, we were probably a couple feet from each other.
And in what direction were you facing when you were speaking to her? And I'm talking in relation to Karen.
I don't remember if she was next to me at this point. She could have been next to me at this point.
All right. And your face would have been facing where?
At her.
Okay.
Sir, I'm like, Yannetti, where else are you going to talk to somebody? Like, I'm not trying to be funny, but like, okay.
That actually was the question. I'm sorry. This is kind of a stupid way to talk, but I have to ask the questions this way.
We were face to face.
There you go. All right. So in other words, Karen was also facing you when she was speaking to you?
Correct.
Did you notice what Karen was drinking?
So she was drinking a drink out of, it was a clear liquid out of a clear glass, and I assumed it to be alcohol of some sort, but I'm not sure.
And while you were talking with her, can you describe, was the conversation coherent?
Very coherent.
Was she making sense?
She was.
Was she engaged in the conversation?
She was.
And did you make any observations regarding her sobriety?
She seemed fine to me.
And you're a pharmacist, correct?
I am a pharmacist.
And you were that night?
I was that night.
How much interaction did you see that Karen had with John O'Keefe?
They had some interaction.
And was there one specific interaction that stands out in your mind, then and today? And I'm talking about a physical.
You guys are making me laugh in the chat. Oh gosh. You remember that commercial? I would like to ask you a question.
Interaction.
When they hugged at one point.
Okay. And did John come over to Karen at one point and do something?
He did.
What did he do?
So John went over to Karen and he gave her a kiss on the forehead.
So I do think this is important. I know this seems like pointless witness, but it's not, because it goes to Karen's mindset, John's mindset. What were they doing? How are they interacting? She was sober, so she would have a good perspective, so to speak. However, Courtney and I went back and forth in the chat here. This was something she'd never seen before. She said it was the sweetest thing she had ever seen, something she had never seen a boyfriend do public. And I'm like, really? I know my dad's from Boston, and guess what? They don't show as much emotion. It's a known thing. Took years for my dad to like hug me and say I love you. I didn't grow up with him doing that. I get it. But I've definitely seen, I mean, she's how old? I don't know. I'm not going to judge her age, but she's a pharmacist for 30 years. You haven't seen somebody kiss each other on the forehead? I don't know. My husband does that to me all the time, so I think it's normal. Am I wrong? But there's going to be a video of it, and we're going to watch it. Seen it before. But what this is supposed to go to, and why the defense is bringing this witness, is because it shows maybe they weren't in such a bad place in the relationship, at least not the hour before the alleged collision. Remember, that first charge is intentionally hitting him, that she sought out in her rage, in her whatever it was, to kill him that night with her car. So that first charge is the intent. So if someone tells you that just an hour before they were kissing and they were lovey-dovey, that does go, that it is relevant, even if it seems kind of silly. But she's also going to confirm seeing Brian Higgins, as well as others. Now, she didn't know him until that night, but she recognized him in the video because she was introduced to him. She's also going to identify where John is. When you see this video, he's kind of at the back of the restaurant. Remember, he's wearing that two-toned shirt, darker in the middle, lighter on the sleeves, long sleeves. Looks like he might be paying. So that's where I want to pick up. Here it is. If you look in the middle of the screen straight back, you're going to see John.
So over my left shoulder is John O'Keefe.
And does that appear to be his back?
Correct.
Okay, if you can play. And he was in, stop for a second. He was in your line of vision at that point, correct?
Correct.
What does he appear to be doing?
He appears to be like paying a tab or something like that, or maybe getting a drink. I'm not sure.
Okay, and do you see him looking in a particular direction right now?
He looks to be looking over his left.
Continue to play. Oh, if we could pause for a second. I neglected to ask you to point out with the pointer. We have
I'm
it
sorry.
now. We might as well use it.
Okay.
If you could point to yourself first.
Okay. So that's me.
All right, Karen.
She's got the jacket with the fur on the hood.
That's Karen.
Karen's in front of her. I know you're seeing this, but I'm just kind of confirming.
And John O'Keefe.
That's John.
Okay, continue to play, Mr. Wolf. Stop. Back up just a sec. Oh.
Oh, goodness.
I'll tell you when to start. Yep. Play. Stop. Okay. Do you see what direction John O'Keefe is facing now?
So John keeps looking back. I've seen this video many, many times. I've analyzed this video. I've watched it back and forth. I've paused it. I've zoomed in. I've clarified it on my own. I've sharpened screenshots of it. He's definitely looking at Brian Higgins and them. I mean, I'm saying definitely, and y'all are going to be like, Kimber, you're not supposed to say definitely. He is looking back towards whatever's going on over there. I don't know who specifically he's looking at, but he's definitely looking at something that's going on in that direction. And what happens to be in that direction are the guys.
He's looking
Not to say that there was anything weird going on with the guys, because that's up for debate.
to the left.
Okay, keep going. Keep going. Stop. What direction is he facing now?
To the left.
And what is over to the left?
I believe that's where the other group of men are located, perhaps.
Okay, keep playing. And I'd like to run this to 11:58:25. Stop.
I mean, I can see his mouth moving, so it's up to you what you think, but he's talking to somebody. It looks like his mouth is moving.
At this point, his whole body is turned to the left, correct?
Correct.
And he appears to be facing where the other group of men were?
I'm sorry, repeat that?
He appears to be facing in the direction of where the other group of men were.
Correct.
Continue to play all through until 11:58:25.
Always.
Okay, that's perfect. Now, keeping the video up, I'd like to now scroll over to the left side of the screen, and we're going to start that at 11:50.
So this would have been about 30 minutes from when allegedly Karen would have, remember, first charge is intentional. So when she would have intentionally hit him. Now, here's the thing. I don't want to go on with this right now because I want us to get through the clip, but afterward, because we only have 2 clips after this. I do want to talk about toxic relationships. I do want to talk about domestics because I'm doing a case right now that's for my private group on the other one, and it's brutal. It is brutal. I don't want to give too much away because then, I already know. How many have we done? How many have we done where things are not what they seem? So many times. To me, the lovey-dovey part means nothing because like Courtney said, it could flip like this. We already know what their text messages look like. They're both jealous. They go back and forth and bicker. Nothing I saw was extreme. I even pulled up exhibits of those text messages and looked at them myself. But you also have to take into account something was happening here. You can't only take it in one perspective. Something's happening with these guys.
7:42, the same approximate time we started the previous discussion.
Catherine. Okay. So we can see the group. See how, I think that's Chris Albert grabbing onto Higgins' arm. I mean, I saw that.
Stop. Okay. You've previously described the other 3 men. Are you able to identify them on this video now in this still frame clip?
I believe I am able.
And who do you see?
I see Chris Albert, Brian Higgins, and Brian Albert.
And which one is which?
Chris Albert is the one that grabbed Brian Higgins' arm, and Brian Albert is with his back towards us.
Okay, now I'll ask you to use the pointer and point to Chris Albert, please.
That's Chris Albert.
On the right.
Yep.
Where's Brian Higgins?
That's Brian Higgins.
In the middle?
Yeah, in the middle. And that's Brian Albert,
Okay.
I believe.
And with regard to Brian Higgins, which direction is he facing?
He's facing the left.
As you can see, we saw John, when it's all blown up. When it's zoomed out. You can see John looking this way. You can see Brian Higgins looking this way. You can see John talking to someone. You can see Brian Higgins. They could have been saying, yo, bro, come over. We're having some brewskis at 34 Fairview. It doesn't mean that something nefarious, as Jen McCabe would say, was happening. It doesn't. However, there was some violent motions here. And that's what I mean by, Chris Albert, like grabbing his arm. What was he doing? Why was he doing that? Was Chris saying like, no, don't invite him? What was going on here?
He's facing to the left?
Or was Brian Higgins saying, I'm going to confront him about his girlfriend texting me about wanting to bleep my bleep. And, I know how Boston people are. My dad's, again, I don't have to keep saying it, but they're confrontational, especially when they've been drinking.
I mean, I'm sorry, he's facing to the right.
Okay. And the direction that he's facing in, who's over there?
Sustained.
What is over there? Is that the direction of the bar?
Sustained.
Okay. Continue to play, please. Stop. Did you see he grabbed his arm a second time?
Correct.
And Brian Higgins is facing in which direction this time?
He's facing the bar area.
Continue to play, please. Okay. You noticed some motion that Brian Higgins made?
He waved his arm.
Back it up for a second, Mr. Wolk, please.
Okay, I was laughing through that and it's not funny. So let's go back for 1 second. I was laughing at the chat because y'all are coming up with some really good ideas. And Jonathan's in the chat.
Continue to play, please.
Okay, we see them kind of doing something, and Chris is like putting his arms up. He's frustrated about something. Brian Higgins is kind of going like, I can't see my arm, but like going like this towards the bar. And he's kind of like,
you
come on.
notice-
I mean, I'm just observing this from what I'm seeing.
Some motion that Brian Higgins made?
He waved his
Back
arm.
it up for a second, Mr. Wilk, please. Stop.
So he's got his arm up, but again, that could be anything. That could be like, yo, we're all going to the after party. On the other hand, so that y'all don't think I'm just seeing it one way, it could also be like what I said. He might be saying to Chris Albert and Brian Albert, who he's been with all day, he's been with Brian all day, it's his best friend. I want to confront him. I want to end this. I want to figure it out. They need to come. I need to figure out why his girl is texting me. Could be.
Did you see a motion that
He put his left arm up.
okay? Appeared to be summoning somebody?
This whole line.
Continue to play. I'm sorry, Your Honor. Continue to play. I'll bear that in mind.
I mean, he is going like this a number of times, but I can't see specifically who he's talking to, but it does appear that he's talking to John when you see this zoomed out.
Okay, we can stop there. Ms. Kolakithis, did you see how many times Brian Higgins motioned with his arm?
Sustained. Commonwealth versus please, Mr.
Understood.
So I was really interested in what Commonwealth versus Pleas was. This is a Mass Court of Appeals case from the year 2000. It was all about whether a witness could identify a person in a surveillance video and whether that could come in for testimony, identifying in a surveillance video of poor quality. And the question before the court in that case was whether they could give that identification, if that was admissible, without more context. Because the jurors may misinterpret the content of that video. And so in this context, it could mean many things. Like he can't ask her, what is he doing? Is he summoning? Does it look like he's summoning somebody? I don't think he can do that because that's for the jury to decide. They're supposed to be analyzing and figuring out what the hand motions are, what the body language is. That's their job. So he couldn't keep doing that. But at this point, Karina confirms that she, Karen, and Jen McCabe left together around midnight. Their husband stayed behind to help clean up and the band gear and stuff. But not without not without adding this part. She said there was an interaction with Jen McCabe. This is like the last clip we're going to play, besides the one of Brennan. And here it goes.
When you were leaving the establishment, whom did you leave with?
So again, it was myself, Jennifer McCabe, and Karen.
Did anything unusual occur when you were leaving?
So as we were leaving, Jen went over to Karen, kind of put her arm around her, and she started saying, "You're coming with me, you're coming with me." And Karen's like, "Huh? Like, what? Like, where are we going?" And
I'm going to sustain the objection.
The first part of that answer, the putting your arm around her, you're coming with me, why did that stand out in your memory?
just because I was there too, and it just was strange. It was just like, "You're coming with me." Like, it was just something that stood out to me.
You weren't included.
I mean, no, it's fine. I mean, it was just stood out, you know? Yeah.
Did Karen go with Jen McCabe?
No, she did not.
What did you see her do?
So then, out of the clear blue, thinking that Karen was going to go with Jen, I see Karen with John.
Thank you so much for the super chat, Sassy. Aw, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And all the merch ideas are amazing. We're going to make those. I definitely want the DNA cup. That's such a good idea. Like, I can imagine it's a mug It looks like a solo cup. So it's got to be white because the top has to be white, right? So it's like the top of the mug has to be white. Then it looks like a solo cup with like the ridges. And then on it, it says like DNA collection. Like, it's not funny. It's not funny, but I'd buy it. Not going to lie. Okay, she sees John and Karen leave together despite the fact that she thinks it's odd that Jen McCabe is saying, "You're coming with me," and like wrapping her arm around her. And she thought that was odd because she was there. So she was thinking, okay, like, why are you making it such a thing? Like, you're coming with me. And she just remembered it. But that could be, you're coming with me. Like, it's cute. It's funny. They're all going together. They want an after party. And okay, I'm just going to say it. It's been brought up before. So I'm just going to say it because it's not fair not to. It has been said that there was a little attraction between different people in this group. They're adults, consenting adults. And that, after a few drinks, some of them like to swing. Okay, we're all adults here, right? I don't know if it's true. Who knows? But, stranger things have happened. So if that was the case with, the jealousy we know between John and Karen and everything, I don't know. Could it have caused a fight? Could it have caused an argument because John wanted to go and maybe Karen didn't want to go? Look, I don't know. But since we don't know, these are all things that are up in the air and we can just think about them. But she sees John leave with Karen.
And where did you see Karen with John?
I saw them just I was parked across Washington Street, across from the restaurant, and I just saw Karen and John like walking down towards what used to be Amber Road, a place.
It used to be Amber Road?
It used to be Amber Road, yeah.
Is that a Amber Road cafe?
Correct. It was like a restaurant. It was like a little cafe shop.
And did you figure out why they were walking in that direction?
That's where I think Karen had parked her car.
Did you have any concerns about Karen being able to drive that night?
I had talked to her all night, and I did not notice anything strange about her. Like, I didn't think anything of it.
And once you parted ways, where did you go?
I went in my car.
Funny, because Courtney brought this up like months ago before I even read it on Reddit. But I was like, oh, Courtney had a point, and I didn't even know it, because she was like, well, couldn't have Jen be texting John because maybe there was a little bit of a crush there of some kind? And I was like, which is a husband? But then I heard this theory and I was like, I don't know. How am I supposed to know? Anything's possible. But she is saying that Karen was coherent. She was having a long conversation with her. She never seemed impaired. And then her final visual that night was her seeing Karen and John walking towards Karen's parked car, and then she went home. So now it is Brennan's turn. Don't tell me that I don't put him on. I definitely put his parts on. I want to analyze both. But I was shocked. I was shocked by how little he did here.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Was your last image of Karen and John, both of them walking to the car and Karen walking to the driver's side door of that car?
Correct.
That night it was a celebratory mood?
Correct.
Everybody was getting along fine?
Yes, we were. Yes.
You were speaking to the defendant for some time?
Most of the time, correct.
You saw her at points hugging Jen McCabe?
Correct.
You knew John?
I did.
He was a kind man?
Very kind.
Generous?
Very generous.
Thoughtful?
Very thoughtful.
Soft-spoken?
Yes.
That night was particularly different. He was extraordinarily proud and happy, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
And you could see him emote about his accomplishment that his daughter got into private school.
Correct.
Did you talk to John that night?
I did.
No further questions. Thank you.
All right, Ms.
That was it. I was like, wait,
Okay,
Brennan,
thank you.
what? He went to bed. He left. I was like, there was so much you could have said about that CCTV foot. I don't know. You could have been like, how do you know he's waving? But I think he was afraid because she was so likable. I don't think he wanted to go with the strategy of like challenging her too much. I don't know. Maybe not. But I don't know. It was weird. I think you could have asked so many questions. But I think the most important part here was he was showcasing that Karen was driving. We know she's been drinking. John was happy. Karina even talked to him that night. He was happy. He was in a good mood. But I was like, Brennan, did you fall asleep? Did you want to leave? Like, what was that? No challenge to the CCTV footage? That to me was so odd. You guys have so many great ideas. I make all the emojis, so I will make the red solo cup emoji. And if you think of any other ones, let me know. I'm going to do the like, I'll allow it one. I was trying to make that the other day, and I saw some other really, really, really great ideas. We're about to wrap up, but there was something else I wanted to point out because I know we've gotten new members. And if you still have thoughts, leave them in the chat. But I wanted to show you something on Discord because some people were confused how to connect to it when you have a membership. Whether your membership, and I'll make the orange couch one for my main. I keep forgetting. So if you are on Discord, and I'm gonna show you this. This is my screen here. Hang on. Okay, I'm showing you my own Discord in the back and how. Let me unlock this for a second. Move this around. Okay. When you go down to connections down here at the bottom, okay, so when you're under your little gear, you're going to go to your profile, and on the bottom, there's going to be a little gear. See if I can, no, I can't show it to you. You go there, and then you go to connections, okay, and then on this side, see if I can move this down. Why is it only showing me that? Oh my gosh, it won't even show it to me. Weird. Um, Down here, see how it says sub-enabled servers? You will be able to link your YouTube. So you have to link the one that you are on a membership with. Bye, Kylie. We'll see you later. You have to link the one you're on a membership with. Here we go. Here's a better view. Okay. So as soon as you link your YouTube, you can display it on your profile to let people know that it's you, whatever. That's not important. It's this part. So behind the yellow tape is my group. And once you connect this, once you look down here and connect your YouTube channel, you see how Lawyer You Know members are here? That's a group that I'm in. So it'll show up as long as you're linking the correct YouTube channel that you have the membership on. So that is how you can get into our group. And we've been talking, we have a Karen feed in there, sub feed in there. We're talking all the time in there. And as we're growing, there's more conversations, more ideas. It's a great place to just kind of hang out. So wanted to let you know how to do that because I get a lot of questions on how to set it up, and it's super easy. You don't really have to do anything. Yes, please hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, do so. This is a new different channel. I really appreciate everyone being here. It is so hot in this room because I forgot to turn the air on. It's like dying in here. But tomorrow's my birthday. I probably will go live. I was thinking about, but then we're going to dinner as well. So if I can do it in the daytime, there is just a lot to cover with the Crash Daddy. So I might not do it until Monday. But by Monday, who even knows what'll happen? So I don't really want to skip a day. So I'll see if I can work it in somehow, but I definitely want some like, family time to just like celebrate my birthday. But definitely join Discord if you are a member. And for anyone who's been gifted a membership, we have 50. It's like crazy. And then the super chats, thank you so much. I really appreciate everything. Everyone have an amazing weekend, and we will be back to discuss either tomorrow, Monday, but very, very soon. And I'll see you then. Bye. Have a good night.